Let's listen to the next murmur, recorded at the second left intercostal space. This continuous murmur, which peaks around the second heart sound and declines in diastole, is typical of patent ductus arteriosus. This machinery-like murmur is due to flow from the aorta through a fetal ductus arteriosus into the left pulmonary artery, and is heard at the second left intercostal space. Patent ductus arteriosus is fairly common, accounting for 10% of congenital heart disease. Listen once again to the continuous murmur of patent ductus arteriosus. The term continuous is applied to the uninterrupted progress of this murmur through the second heart sound, rather than to the persistence of the murmur throughout all of the cardiac cycle. This continuous murmur should be differentiated from a to and fro murmur like combined aortic stenosis and regurgitation. A continuous murmur peaks at the time of the second heart sound, while a to and fro murmur decreases as it approaches the second heart sound. Notice the difference between these two murmurs as they approach the second heart sound. I will start with a continuous murmur and contrast that with the to and fro murmur of aortic stenosis and regurgitation. To highlight the difference between these murmurs as they approach the second heart sound, I will play just the systolic component of a continuous murmur and then compare that to the systolic component of the to and fro murmur. To demonstrate how this continuous murmur peaks at the second heart sound, I will begin with the systolic component of this murmur and then add the diastolic component. In contrast, compare this sound to that of a to and fro murmur as it approaches the second heart sound. I will begin with just the systolic component of aortic stenosis and then add the diastolic component of aortic regurgitation. A moderate-sized patent ductus arteriosus may cause heart failure in adults due to volume overload of the left ventricle. Two-dimensional echocardiography can visualize the patent ductus, and Doppler echocardiography can demonstrate continuous flow in the pulmonary trunk. Other causes of the continuous murmur include coronary arteriovenous fistula, ruptured sinus of Valsalva aneurysm, and systemic arteriovenous fistula. Listen once again to the machinery-like murmur of a patent ductus arteriosus. Surgical ligation of a patent ductus arteriosus can generally be accomplished without cardiopulmonary bypass and has an anticipated mortality of 0.5%. A small or moderate-sized patent ductus can be closed with a thrombogenic coil inserted in the ductus at catheterization. Even a small patent ductus should be closed to decrease the risk of endarteritis. In summary, patent ductus arteriosus accounts for 10% of congenital heart disease and results in a classic continuous murmur heard at the second left intercostal space. A moderate-sized ductus arteriosus can cause heart failure. Echo-Doppler studies can usually visualize the ductus arteriosus, and surgical ligation can be accomplished with a very low mortality. Small and moderate-sized patent ductuses can be closed with a thrombogenic coil at cardiac catheterization.